President, please be seated. The court is now in session. For this week hearing, that is starting from today, the trial chamber will hear the testimony of witness TCW 586, Graffier, could you report the attendance of the parties in today's proceeding? Graffier, good morning, Mr. President. The prosecution is present. The civil parties and the civil party lead co-lawyers are present. Each counsels for the defense are present. As for TCW 586 is present and waiting in the waiting room to be summoned by the court. Graffier, could you report whether the witness has any affiliation by blood or by law with any of the concerned parties? Graffier, Mr. President, the witness has already taken an oath on the 23rd of April. According to Rule 24(1) of the Internal Rule and Article 154 of the Code of the Criminal Procedure, the witness also declares that he has no affiliation by blood or by law with any of the parties or the civil parties in case 002. President, thank you, the Graffier, court officer. Could you invite the witness TCW 586 into the courtroom? Graffier, according to the report by the court officer, that the witness also has his own counsel. Is that correct? Graffier, that is correct, Mr. President. He requests to have his lawyer present during the testimony. Thank you, says the President. Court officer, could you please invite both the witness and his counsel into the courtroom? I notice the lead co-lawyer for civil parties is on his feet. You may proceed. Civil party lawyer. Good morning, Mr. President, Your Honors. We would like to inform the chamber that for the questions or interventions by the lead co-lawyers, we would assign Ms. Chit Wan Lee and Elizabeth Rasadrasthana to take charge. President, thank you. Yes, the chamber grants the permission for the assignment of the question and intervention times to the two civil party lawyers. Michael Canavas, you may proceed.
Good morning, Mr. President. Good morning, Your Honors, and good morning to everyone in and around the courtroom. On April 9, we were served with an email which more or less put down the modalities for providing documents in advance through this interface method. As of yet, no documents have been released by the greffier. This was supposed to be done 24 hours in advance of the witness appearing. Of course, I don't know what the prosecutor has in mind, whether they provided the documents, but apparently, unless the greffier releases them, no one has access to them. So as of this moment, we don't know if the prosecution intends to show any documents pursuant to this procedure. And might I take the time to also suggest that when a witness is coming in on Monday, it would be helpful to have the list, or at least a tentative list, on Friday, because otherwise we have no access other than coming through the tribunal, which means making a trip to the tribunal on a Saturday or Sunday to see whether documents have been released by the greffier. So obviously this is an inconvenience. We're not suggesting that the prosecution has not provided a list, but obviously it hasn't been released, so we don't know what, if anything, the prosecution intends to do. Perhaps they can inform us what their intentions are. Thank you.
President, thank you, Counsel. The International Co-Prosecutor, you may proceed.
Mr. President, as Counsel Conover said, we used the interface on Friday to put the bulk of the documents that we're going to use in, and we have added a few more during the weekend. I don't actually know why these documents weren't communicated to the parties. If necessary, I can ask for photocopies to be made of the lists that I have before me for all of the parties, Mr. President.
President, can you confirm whether you sent the document to the parties? Because the defense counsels do not have the documents, and if you sent, by what means? This is in regard to the documents you said that you sent by electronic means on Friday. Could you also provide a hard copy?
In fact, since the Chamber asked us to not use email but the interface, that is what we have done. And that's where we put all of the documents that we were intending to use in the co-prosecutor section of the interface. I assume it's now up to the greffier to make these documents accessible to all of the parties after that. I have a copy here of the list of all the documents I intend to use, which we're most happy to photocopy if you wish, Mr. President.
President, if the transmission through the interface has not reached the parties, in order to resolve the matter, could you provide the documents to the parties? Good morning, Mr. Witness. What is your name? My name is Ban. Alias, my name is Ban Nitya and Sohong, Bing, and Pat, and Ta Ma Lai. Your first name is Band. What is your surname? Please note that when you see the red light on the microphone, then you can speak so that your voice will go through the interpretation system. My name is Salot Ban. Thank you, says the President. Mr. Salot Ban, how are you? Response. I am 67 years old as of today. Question. What is your current occupation? Response. I am a soldier through the Ministry of Defense. However, I am retired. Question. What is your current address? Response. My current address is in Malay. Question. What is your father's name? Response. My father's name is Salot Singh. And your mother's name? Response. Her name is Lum Hup. Question. How many children do you have? Response. I have 5. Thank you, Mr. Salotman. According to the report by the greffier, you do not have any affiliation by blood or by law through any of the civil parties or the 3 accused or any parties in the proceeding. Is that correct? Response. That is correct. Question. The greffier also reported that you already took an oath before you testify. Is that correct? Response. That is correct. Thank you, says the President. Today you are here to testify as summoned by the trial chamber, and you request the presence of your lawyer during your testimony. Today the trial chamber and Visu assigned one counsel to you during your testimony. Also, at the same time, we would like to inform you of your rights and duties. Mr. Salotman, as a witness in the proceedings before the trial chamber, you may refuse to respond to any questions which you may believe would incriminate yourself. This means that if your response would put you in a position to be charged. You also, as a witness, to provide a testimony before this trial chamber, that is to respond to the questions put to you by the chamber or by any party. Except in the case where you need to make comments or to incriminate yourself. Also, as a witness, you must only say the truth that you experienced or knew or observed personally regarding the events or event to be asked in the questions by the party. Do you understand that? Yes, I do, says the witness. Thank you, says the President. As I observed, you already have your lawyer with you. This duty counsel or lawyer is to advise you regarding the questions put to you by the chamber or by the parties. And you may advise your client not to respond if you believe that the response would incriminate your client. That is the duty of the duty counsel. So if you observe such a question is put to your client, then you can consult with your client whether he wishes to respond to such a question. The chamber would like to inform the prosecution that the chamber will give the floor to the prosecution to question this witness before other parties. You may now proceed. Chandra Resmay. Good morning, Mr. President. Good morning, Your Honors. Good morning, Mr. Witness. On behalf of the prosecution, I would like to put some questions to you. Good morning once again, Mr. Witness. I will ask you questions regarding the events that you knew. First, I put some questions regarding your identification and personal history. Was your father a blood relative to Salotso? Response. My father was the elder brother of my uncle Salotso. Question. What was your father's occupation? Response. He's a farmer. Question. What is your mom's occupation? Response. She's a farmer. Question. Based on the revolutionary movement or the movement of the Communist Party of Cambodia, what was your class status? Response. I was a student. Questions. Starting from the movement of the revolution, were you in the workers' class, the peasants' class, the feudal class, or the capitalist class? Were you in any of these classes? Response. I was in the peasants' class. Questioned. In the status as a nephew of Pol Pot, did it have any influence regarding your class status at the time? Response. During that period, Pol Pot himself did not have any influence on my class status. Questioned. During that regime, as you were related to Pol Pot, who was a leader at the time, did the relationship give you any kind of protection? Response. During that regime, I was a messenger, I was a cook, as well as a medic. My apologize, I am not a qualified medic. I only knew how to make some injection, that's all. Questions. Due to your blood affiliation between you and Pol Pot, did you receive any kind of protection? Response. It's not my profession to be a guard, but I am an honest person. Question. How many siblings do you have? Question. Response. I have 9 siblings. 2 sisters and 8 brothers. My real mother had 3 brothers, and my second mother had a son, and my other mother had 6 children, 2 brothers, and I apologize, 2 daughters and 4 sons. President, the prosecutor, could you please direct more of your question into the substance? It is not necessary to put more questions regarding the identification of the witness. You may put a more valuable question to this witness for more substantive response. You have to also take into account the time and location for the prosecution. Thank you, Mr. President. Who is Saint Lee Teng, alias Teng? What is his relationship to you? Response. Saint Lee Teng is my younger brother. Question. Do you know what was his occupation before April 1975? Response. Before 1975, I heard that he was a soldier, a Vietnamese soldier. Question. Does he have any other name besides Teng? Response. Pun Thi is his other name. Question. Did he used to work at K1 office? Response. He used to stay at K1 office, but I did not know about his work. Question. Did he have any relationship with Pol Pot, Noon Chi, or Khieu Samphan? Response. It is possible that he could make some contacts with them, but I did not know what the contacts were about. Question: did you meet him, that is your younger brother Teng, often during the period? Response: during that regime, I did not meet Teng often. Question: do you know the person by the name Chu Cheng? Response: is Chu Cheng a male or a female? A male, says the prosecutor. No, I do not know a man by the name of Chu Cheng. Now I'd like to ask some questions regarding your work. Can you describe briefly regarding your history of study and employment? Let me start with your study. What degree did you obtain and what is your specialty? Response: I failed to get an entry into the colleague, and I also failed in my diploma exam. My other question is regarding the events during the Khmer Rouge regime. Did you know whether Pol Pot left Phnom Penh for office 100 in April 1975? Response: no, I didn't know that.
Question: during the Sihanouk regimes, were you abused in any sort in the judiciary? I was imprisoned for 10 days. Samdech Ta released me. Question: did Pol Pot introduce you to join revolution when you were 13 years old? Response: Pol Pot did not introduce me to join revolution. Question: before the revolution movement took place during that period, what was your position and where did you reside? Response: when I first joined the revolution, my first position was a security guard in various places, which I cannot recall, and I was on the move at that time. Back in 1967, what was your main occupation in Phnom Penh? Response: in 1967, I had several occupations. I pedal cyclo. 2. I work as a conventional construction worker. That is it. Question: when you left Phnom Penh, where did you go? Response: when I left Phnom Penh, well, I left Phnom Penh because I was accused of being a traitor And this accusation was made by the Lonol administration. Then I fled and took refuge in Phnom Penh. I paddle at night. I paddle cyclo at night to make a living. I did not dare to paddle cyclo during the daytime for fear of being arrested. And then after that, I fled to Kratie province. I resided in Snuol district. And I stay most of the times in O Krieng, Kabal Dam Ray, in Kratie province. Question: when you were residing in Kratie province, did you stay close to Pol Pot back then? Response: I did not stay with Pol Pot. Question: did you meet any other leaders when you were in Kratie province?
No.
When I was in Kratie province, I met with Dun, who was one of the leaders. Question: who was Dun? Response: I did not know his biography. Questions: what was his position back then? Response: I don't know. Question: until what year did you live in Kratie province? Response: I lived in Kratie province from 1966 to 1967. Question: did you know that leaders, Khmer Rouge leader went to Ratanakiri province before 1969? They did not go to Ratanakiri province before 1979, did they? Response: I don't know. Question: who else did you meet when you went to Ratanakiri province? I met my uncle, Salot So, Son Sen, Mr. Ieng Sari, and Madame Ieng Thieret. Question: did you meet any other leaders apart from the leaders you have just enumerated? Beside the leaders I have described, I had never met any others. Question: did you know back then whether those leaders were members of the standing committee or central committees during that period? Response: I did not know anything. Question: what was the relationship between Pol Pot and Ieng Sari? Response: I did not know. Question: in the mid-1960s, did Pol Pot and Ieng Sari's wives live in Maki jungle with them? Did the wives of the two leaders, Ieng Sari and Pol Pot, live with them in Maki jungle back then? Response: I saw they lived together. Question. What were their names when they were living in the Maki Yanggol? To my recollection, she used the name Pierre. Question. Who are you referring to when you describe the person by the name of Pierre? Response. I refer to Madame Ing Tiret. How about the other lady? Did she use another alias? Mr. Ing Sari himself, he was called One. Question. Did you know the reason for the pseudonyms to be used at that time? I did not know the motive behind the change of the name. Question. Did you know that they were biological sisters and brother? I knew that they were related by blood. Could you tell the court about the love and affection of Ieng Sary and Pol Pot were the same? Yes, that was true, says the witness. Question. Why did Pol Pot, Ieng Sary, Son Sen decided to locate their office there? Response. I did not know. What was the village, the name of the village in Ratanakiri province where they located their office? Response. That village belonged to the ethnic minority. It's a bit difficult to recollect it. I have forgotten it. Question. Later on, they changed the name of that village. Do you recall the new name of that village? Response. I don't know. I'm sorry. I have never thought of it. So what offices did you work with when you were in Ratanakiri province? I do not remember the office names or numbers. Question. Have you heard of Office 100? Response. Yes, I have. Question. What does Office 100 do? Response. I do not know. I don't know what it was for. Questions. Did you ever hear about Office 102 and what was its function? Response. Yes, I knew Office 102, but I did not know what it was for. Question. Did you see Nuon Chea back then? Response. Yes, I did see Mr. Nuon Chea. Actually, to the best of my recollection, I saw him once. Where did you see him? Response. I saw him at Office 100. Question. Why did Mr. Nuon Chea visit Office 100? Response. I did not know anything other than the purpose of fighting against the imperialists, the American imperialists. Question: did you know who the secretary of Office 100 was? Response: I don't know. Question: how about Office 102? Who was the secretary of this office back then? Response: I did not know. Question: can you enlighten us why these two offices were established? Response: I did not know the reason for their establishment. Question: were you a member of the Communist Party of Cambodia? Response: which period are you referring to? Prosecutor: during the Democratic Cambodia period. Witness: I was, of course, a member of the party. Question: since you were members, when did you join? When did you join the party? I joined it in 1968, says the witness. Question: to become a member of the party, what were the requirements? There were no specific requirements. Question: why did you decide to join the party? The only purpose was to liberate the country from American imperialism. Question: from 1969, did the party resort to using armed struggle against the center? Response: I do not understand your question. Question: from 1969, the party had decided to wage armed struggle. So how did this happen?
Mr. Chair. My apologies for interjecting. Thus far, there have been a number of leading questions. This one is so blatantly leading that I'm compelled to object and perhaps request an admonition that no leading questions. He's obviously feeding the witness a certain particular fact which has not been established, at least through this witness, which is the requirement before he can pose the question which he posed eventually. Thank you.
The President, thank you, Defense Counsel. The objection is sustained. The witness is directed not to respond to the last question posed by the prosecutor because it is a leading question. Mr. Chandra Resmay. Thank you, Mr. President. I would like to move on to my next question. When you were residing in Ratnagiri province, were you trained with ideology or political ideology or so? Back then, at that time, I did not understand what was constituted as ideology, but I received trainings I was trained with a number of instrumental documents, namely minority solidarity under the revolutionary flag. Question. This very document you mentioned, what does it mean for the minority groups living in the northeastern part of the country, namely Ratanakiri province? Response. I was of the opinion that this very document was instrumental document, at least for me, because we wanted to build solidarity of ethnic minorities under revolutionary flag in order to liberate the country. Secondly, this document trained the ethnic minorities in that area. They were the vulnerable, most vulnerable and disadvantaged groups, and they had to resist against exploiting class, and they had to educate themselves, and they have to train and behave themselves not to oppress others as well if they don't want to be oppressed. Question. When this document was published, and this document was handwritten, but can you tell us about the tactical and strategic groups? What do these two terms refer to? Response. I cannot elaborate it orally. If you want me to describe, I probably have to make use of a whiteboard so that I can explain it more thoroughly. Question. Back then, what was the belief policy imposed by the party for ethnic minorities living in the northeastern part of the country? Response. Respect for and continuous improvements on the weaknesses of the ethnic minorities. Question. Can you tell us who told the ethnic minority to abandon their traditional belief? Response. I am of the view that on this universe there was nothing abstract. Everything is tangible, but they are invisible. And we have to adopt an approach to explain them, to ensure that they understand it. Question. Did Pol Pot use any other materials to instill ideology with the people? For example, the statute of the Communist Party of Cambodia or other publications such as the Revolutionary Flag, or use magazines of the Communist Party Cambodia to introduce to the ethnic minorities? Response. It varies from one period to another. Which period are you referring to, Mr. Chandraras? I refer to the period when you were staying with Pol Pot, when you were resisting in the revolutionary movement. Response. The President. Witness, please hold on. I note the Defense Counsel for Nuon Chea is on his feet. You may proceed. Mr. Sonarun. May it please the Court, I have heard this morning that Mr. Prosecutor failed to mention a specific period in which he wants to get the answer from the witness. So I would like to ask the chamber to remind the prosecutor that whenever he puts the question to the witness, the time bound must be specified so that it is clear in his answer. Thank you, Mr. President. The President. Thank you, Counsel. Just now I also observed that the witness found it a bit difficult as well to answer to the question simply because it was not clear as to which period the prosecution wanted to ask. For example, the struggle in the Maki jungles, it was a bit vague in terms of time frame. So I would like to remind the prosecution to please ensure that the question is specific in terms of times. And again, I would like to remind parties that the specific period should be mentioned in the question so that the witness can answer it correctly. Secondly, when it comes to framing the question, please make sure that you refrain from asking any leading questions. The parties should avoid telling the facts to the witness and then ask the witness to confirm it. Then this is a question that of leading nature. And with the name of individual as well, it is important that the question be asked to ensure that the person has known any particular person before. We ask for the question concerning whether or not the person has met that individual or not. So you may proceed. Mr. Chandra Rasmay. Thank you, Mr. President. I would like to now move on to my next question. Did Pol Pot teach you or tell you the objective of the establishment of Communist Party of Cambodia? Response. I don't think that you are mentioning any time again. Actually, he taught me and told me different things at different times. And it varies depending on the level of understanding of people, based on the level of their understanding. Question. Can you tell the court the principal political lines of the Communist Party of Cambodia? Response. I am not the founder of the party, so I did not know. Question. In the Communist Party of Cambodia, did all the leaders reach consensus on the political lines? Or were there any points of contention among party members when adopting the political lines of the party? Response. It was not my business. I only minded my business back then. Question. What were the disciplines embodied in the Communist Party of Cambodia? Response. I do not recall them all, but what I remember were the 12 moral principles. Question. Those who breached the moral principle of the party, what were the likely punishment for the offenders?
Response. I did not know much about the punishment or what kinds of punishment, but I knew that people need to refashion themselves and also have a common refashioning amongst themselves. Questioned. When your uncle, that is Pol Pot, left Cambodia through China, through Vietnam, that is between 1969 to 1970, did you accompany him? Response. I did not know that he went to China at the time. Questioned. Who would make a decision regarding the armed struggle during his absence in the country? Response. No, I didn't know that. Questioned. When was the central office relocated from Ratanakiri province? Response. It was after the coup d'etat. That is the coup d'etat by Lon Nol. Question. Where was it relocated? Response. The central office was relocated to the area adjacent to the borders of Kampong Thom and Kampong Cham provinces. And it was then mobile. Question. Why was the office relocated to the area near Steng Chinat? Response. I did not know the actual reason. It was confidential. Questioned. What was your role when Pol Pot and other leaders relocated to live near Steng Chinat? Response. I was an ordinary combatant. Question. Can you confirm who were the leaders who also stayed at the area near Steng Chinat? Response. I saw Pol Pot, Nuon Chea, and besides them, there were others who came and went. Question. Did they stay in the same location or in a separate location within the same village? Response. There was no village there. It was a jungle. They stay close to one another. They stay in a separate hut. Question. Did you see Khieu Sampon there at the time? Witness, I'd like to request for clarification of the time period. Prosecutor, it was the same time period when the office was relocated to the area near Stang Chinat. Can you respond to my question? Response, in 1970, no, I did not see him. Question, at the area near Stang Chinat, you did not see him? Response, no, not in 1970. Question, was the central office worked often? Response, could you please clarify your questions? You talk about work, you talk, probably they were working 24 hours, 24/7. My question is that whether the central office hold frequent meetings regarding the party's principles or policy? Response, you can say it is often or it is not. It depends on the necessity decided by the leadership there. Question, who were members of the central office and also the members of the standing committee? Response, I did not know the details regarding the appointment of those membership. I only knew the faces, but I did not know the detail of each individual membership status. Mr. President, I seek your permission to show 3 photos on the screen. And we also would like the photos to be shown to the witness. President, are they new photos or the photos from the case file? What are the document IDs for those photos? Yes. We do have. The document ID is P00416593 and another photo. Also another document is E3/136 and the photo is P00416593. And another photo is P00416590. Another document is P00416592 or document E3/137. And I would like the witness to view the photos before I put questions to him. President, yes, you can go ahead. Court officer, could you assist the prosecution with the photos and bring them to the witness for his examination? Prosecution, Mr. President. Now with the photos, I'd like to put questions to the witness. Mr. Witness, you have seen the photos, and I'd like to ask the following questions. Do you know where the photo was taken? And under what circumstance? Please view the first photo, that is document E3/136. That is the first photo. Another document ID is P00416593. Witness, I am not sure where the photo was taken, and I do not know under what circumstance. I only see the slogan at the background of the photo. Prosecution, according to the document, the photo was taken during the third session of the General Assembly in 1971. Witness, I cannot recall that. During that General Assembly, did you attend? Response. No, I did not attend that assembly, and I did not know the purpose of such an assembly. Question, do you recognize anyone in the photos? Can you describe? For instance, Nuon Chea, Pol Pot, Ieng Sary, Khieu Samphan. Response, in this photo, I am sure only of the individuals whom I frequently saw, including my uncle, that is Pol Pot, Question, where is Pol Pot in the photo? Can you describe what role is he in, whether he is standing or sitting? Response, he is sitting on the back, he's standing on the back row to the side, to the right side. Do you recognize any other people? Respond, it is unclear to me. My eyesight is not that good, and the photo is a little bit blurred. I can only clearly recognize the figure of my uncle Pol Pot. Question, do you recognize Nuon Chea in this photo? Respond, I cannot say for sure, but it is likely that the person who is wearing a scarf on the neck, but I cannot say for certain. Question, what about Tamok? Do you recognize Tamok in the photo? Response: No, I cannot say for sure. Thank you. Please now look at the second photo. It's D313/1.2.234 or P00416590. My question is, can you describe the setting in this photo? Where was it taken, if you can recall, and when? Response: I cannot recall, and I do not know the location where the photo was taken. Question: for the third photo, that is E3/137 or P00416592, could you please examine the picture and tell us where the photo was taken, what kind of activities, and whom you recognized in that photo? Response: I do not know where the photo was taken or under what circumstance. I only clearly know one person in this photo, that is my uncle Pol Pot. Question: where is Pol Pot? Is he standing or sitting? Response: he is standing in the middle of the photo. Thank you, Mr. Witness. Now we move on to another question. Questioned: by late 1960 until April 1975, while you were living with Pol Pot and other leaders of the Communist Party of Cambodia, namely Ieng Sary, is this correct? Response: I mainly stayed with Pol Pot. Question: during the time that you were living with him, was it the time that you clearly understand the view of the leadership and of the Communist Party of Cambodia? Is that correct? Response: I did not know it clearly. However, in hindsight, Pol Pot's view was one that is peaceful. Thank you, says the prosecutor. Questioned: before 1975, in Cambodia, the leadership at the time regarded certain individuals as traitors. Who were those traitors or enemies? Response: pre-1975, we supported the neutral policy by Samdech Ta. Whoever Samdech Ta opposed, we would support his position. Questioned: within the principal policy of the Communist Party of Cambodia, who did they regard as the enemy, whether they were within the class of the working class, the peasants class, or the feudal class, or the capitalist class? Response. In general, the policy is for the national front policy. Question. Who the CPK regarded as clean within the class status? Response. The clean status means those who adhere strictly to the 12 moral principles. Can you elaborate further on the 12 moral principles? Response. I cannot recall them all. I call one clearly though. That is, we cannot steal even one chili. We have to ask from the people. Question. Can you confirm, in order to become a member of the CPK, what kind of criteria and whether the person has to be tempered before they could join the CPK? Response. I cannot describe in details in regard to this matter. As I said, they have to have the highest level in the 12 moral principles, even if not 100% perfect. If you can achieve 50 or 60% of the rate, then you will be considered. Question. What was the reason for the alliance between the CPK with Sihanouk and his Funk? Response. I cannot know in details. As I said, we support the idea of maintaining our territory and to maintain our neutral policy of Samdakta. Question. The enemy class of the party, where was it? Response. The enemy class of Cambodia, based on my understanding, is embedded in a class which destroyed its nation and the nation's property. Question. The enemy class, were they located within the city areas or at the suburban or countryside? Response. I cannot describe in details as this is the policy set up by the upper level. Question. The Phnom Penh residents, were they considered enemy, or were they at least considered to be untrustful? Response. I did not hear such a word from my leadership. Question. Strict discipline of the religion of Buddhism or Islam or superstition, did they have any impact on the principles of the party? Response. What I heard was that Buddhist religion was the religion of the state. As for other religions, people who follow those religions would be educated, and the good points would be accepted, and the bad points would be getting rid of. That is for the sake of the nation as a whole. Question. What were the punishment for those who refused to abandon their religion? Response. I did not see any events related to your question. Question. Regarding the Buddhist followers, in particular those leaders, religious leaders, were they considered enemies? Response. No, they were not considered enemies. Question. In the liberated zone before 1975, were the Buddhist monks disrobed by themselves, or were there any pressures from the party for them to disrobe? And was it the policy or the principle of the party that is to force the religious followers to abandon their religion? Response. I'd like to make a comment regarding this point. There was no force used. The situation was as follows. At that time, there were planes. They were locally called the pig cake planes, and the situation was terrible. At that time, when there was a concentration or gathering of a group of people, then they would be shot at. And when they see people wearing the color of the robes of the monks, they would be shot at. So for that reason, the monks disrobed by themselves and to join the resistance, because they were ashamed of the female or of the women who assisted in the transportation. Questions. As a religious group and an ethnic group, or in regards to its culture, were the Cham people considered enemies? Response. I did not hear that the leadership talking about the opposition to those who adhere to the Islamic religion.
Question. The Lonol, or who were considered the American allies, were they considered enemies? What I heard by my own ear, they considered them as the front, but not the enemy. How about administrative officials of the Lonol administration? Were they considered enemies? Response. I did not hear or knew it clearly, but I only heard that certain individuals had to be screened. The President, Well, the time is now appropriate for morning break, and the chamber will adjourn for 20 minutes, and we will resume at 10 to 11. Court officer is instructed to arrange the place for the witness and the duty counsel to rest during the break, and have them back to this courtroom before 10 to 11. I note the defense counsel is on his feet. You may proceed. Mr. Angadam. Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Your Honors. Mr. Ieng Sari, as usual, has requested that he be excused from this courtroom, but to follow the proceeding from the holding cell downstairs. And this request is made to the chamber due to his ailment, his lumbago, and other related illness. So may it please the court grant this request. The President, having heard the request by Mr. Ieng Sari through his defense counsel that he wishes to follow the proceeding from the holding cell downstairs, where the video link is connected for the accused to follow by remotely, so due to his health reason, the chamber therefore grants this request. To waive his right not to be present directly in this courtroom, but instead follow the proceeding from the room downstairs through audio-visual means for the whole day today. However, the chamber requires Ieng Sari defense team to submit the chamber the written waiver of the accused together with his thumbprint or signature, and the AV technicians are instructed to connect the audio-visual video for the accused so that he can follow the proceeding from the holding cell. And security guards are instructed to bring Mr. Ieng Sari and the other co-accused to the holding cell downstairs. The court is adjourned.